need this help, because there's a lot of university startups and startups in general that don't actually have the business acumen, because a lot of them are developers, but they need help with accounting, with legal, with UI UX, with financial modeling, and most importantly, a lot of the time, fundraising. So what we try to do is make sure that people don't get their companies eaten alive by cheeky little term sheets and cheeky little things in that these VCs like to sneak in there sometimes. So that's where we decided to do a partnership with ICP. Why? Because ICP is doing something called Chain Fusion. What is Chain Fusion? They believe that it's all about an interoperable world. What is an interoperable world? It's the world that we're in right now, where you don't have to check on your phone and go, oh, this person's on Vodafone, I can't talk to them because they're on Vodafone. Oh, this person's on T-Mobile, I can't talk to them because they're on T-Mobile. That is exactly what's happening in the blockchain space, and this is exactly what Chain Fusion and ICP want to eradicate, where all chains can finally talk together, whether you're building on Ethereum, whether you're building on Solana, whether you're building on Ton, or whether you're building on Bitcoin. That is our vision, to help you to do that, and then also give you all of the key business support that you need. And that is why we teamed up with Crypto Mondays to find amazing people and connect them together. So thank you very much for listening to me. I'm Michael Harding. You guys are amazing.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, without further ado, I would like to introduce our moderator for this evening. You might recognize Oleg Giberstein. He is the co-founder of CoinRoll. I'll let you introduce yourself, Oleg, and the panel.
Sure, thanks so much, Kate.
Because we have a... You want me to do?
Yeah. All right, welcome everyone. It's good to be back. It's been a while. So I'm Oleg. I'm one of the founders of CoinRoll. You've seen CoinRoll before. Obviously, I'm also been part of the Crypto Monday crew for ages. With CoinRoll, we help our users build automated trading strategies. We've been running off-chain, so on top of Binance, Coinbase, etc. And we just launched our first DeFi product on-chain. So you can build non-custodial automated trading strategies on-chain. Would love to show any of you who would be interested in the chat. But let's jump right in. We'll ask in a minute, we'll ask the panel members to introduce themselves. But first, we have a few quick preparatory questions to get a sense for how much of a knowledge of our tonight's topic you already have. Could I ask, please, everyone to scan this QR code? We'll run through a short list of questions. And it is anonymous.
Has everyone scanned?
Marketing. Marketing your company.
Oh, we got some experts.
You are the experts.
It's the Wi-Fi.
Oh, yeah.
Oh wait, it's on this little.
Yeah. Anyone else want to?
If anyone else needs Wi-Fi,
Process. Are you good? Yeah, okay. Next one. Yeah.
All right, next question. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and let's go to the next one.
That was the house.
Oh. And the last question, everyone. If anyone writes anything inappropriate, I'll change this.
Reply to my WhatsApps.
This is.
I still can't.
Yeah. Please do my all right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's move on to the main part of the evening, our delightful panel. Could I please ask all the speakers to take a seat?
Yep.
We got everyone set in the right order. All right, everyone. Just to kick us off, could I please ask everyone to quickly introduce themselves and also talk a little bit about your company and what you do? Let's start with Jesper.
Good evening, everyone.
You might have to flip your thing on.
Wait, is it on? Yeah. We will. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jasper de Mare. I'm the head of research at Outlier Ventures. So for those who don't know us, we're one of the largest Web3 accelerators in the space. We've been active for a little bit over a decade, and a large part of our activity is very thesis driven. So research is a large proponent of all of that. We've been actively looking at the intersection between AI and DLT all the way back since 2016, when actually transformer technology hadn't had the meaningful breakthroughs which we all use today. So the majority was about data back then. But we're still very active in that space, and obviously now doubling down on the agents and everything that's happening there.
Can I borrow yours?
Yes.
Are you short one, Mike?
I'm the only one who doesn't have one, right?
Everyone has to share with you.
Here we go. So Yasmina, I've been working in gamification mechanism, ed tech, and AI for the last 15 years, and recently diving into the blockchain and gaming, and also have been elected recently the president of the Blockchain Game Alliance. So if you have any projects, thank you. So we've been building AI agent gaming, and I will be more than happy to share more on that. Shall I share it with you? You have yours.
I think this is working.
I give you
Hello everybody, thanks for coming down tonight. It's great to see a full room. I'm Ben. I've been in crypto since 2020. I was working with AI in 2019 and 18 in health tech, which was quite a pivot. And for the last 6 months, I've been part of the Eliza Labs developer relations team, formerly known as AI16Z. They are an open source AI framework. They were one of the most popular GitHub repositories in November and December. And there's been a lot of, say, tension from a developer perspective, but also maybe from a market perspective, which I'll try and avoid tonight, from people building open source applications which are on the fringe of AI and crypto. And I've been fortunate enough to be, I guess, in the middle of it all.
Hi everyone, I'm Wesley Alul. I'm a special envoy for startup funding and innovation for the government of Malta. I've been working in the digital space since 2005, creating digital technologies and sort of looking to where the future of technology goes each time. Right now, we're doing a very heavy focus in Malta on obviously blockchain, which was our baby back in 2018, and bringing that back to the island with Mika. But we're also taking a look at how AI is intersecting with this and the power that AI is going to bring and how it's going to change economies, not just in Malta, but around the world.
Thanks so much, everyone. Just to kind of get us started, I think a lot of people get confused between AI, agentic AI, decentralized AI. What do these things actually mean? Could you just kind of quickly give your explanation for how would you distinguish between these three things? And then speaking of agentic AI, what are actually some use cases of it? We can go.
Yeah, I'll speak about this for hours. I'll give you my 2 seconds thinking here. So obviously, if you look back at the past few years, November 22, GPT fell into the hands of the masses, LLMs became widely available. And the first 2 years, let's say, a lot of the activity was around the synthesization of, or like, I don't even know if that's a word, but the summary of information. So like research was a very big part of this. It was really summarizing information which was digitally available. And yes, humans are extremely poor at it. The next step is, I think, the more exciting step, and that's agentic AI, in which it's no longer about information just being distributed and rewritten, but it is about allowing AI, which is LLM powered, to take meaningful participation in economic activity, social activity. So it's really about empowering agents, which are powered by LLM, to act on our behalf. I can ask it to do something, it execute, it makes specific payments. And in my mind, that's really like the shift we're going through now. And then on the component about decentralization, it's whether or not these agents are to some extent hosted on decentralized blockchain technologies.
I'm gonna try to make it as simple as Jasper. So from my perspective, I'd probably metaphor it into very simple things where like AI is an algorithm. Okay, so it's kind of fed via information. It's very like in a company, it's like the execution. So it's the blue collars who are just doing some jobs and tasks on the ground. When we're talking about the agentic AI, I'll probably say they are the CEOs, C-level board members, because they're going to be thinking about the context of the company. They're not seeing only the little task on the ground, but they're looking at the overview of the business, complex information. So they really kind of probably work in that way. And decentralization is really, today we don't see it really in terms of new things, but we are all centralized. Our information and data is all centralized somewhere with companies, right? And they own us. So the next 50 years is full manipulation with your data in the political, economical side. So if go into this centralization means that they don't have access to it. It's available on any ledgers for anyone to see. So that's kind of maybe my basic explanation.
I'll try and keep it basic as well. Yeah, I mean, AI to me is algorithms, big data centers, ChatGPT, LLMs. I think that's the AI industry. Agents, I think it's like a service layer where you wrap the capacity or capabilities of AI to have a use case, whether it's a service delivery or a productization of something. I think everybody that shared their thoughts there probably had a viable use case for an agent. It's applying an AI to an end use case. Decentralized AI, that's an interesting question. I think we could probably debate that quite a bit. But to me, I'm thinking of decentralized hardware. I think inference, which is ChatGPT, that needs to be decentralized over time. You need to have more transparent systems that you know what data is being inputted to the models and therefore secure and not kind of having bad actors involved. So yeah, there's lots of decentralized GPU, decentralized inference, centralized kind of verification systems. I think that's where I see decentralized AI starting to come in. You could argue a lot more, but yeah, that's where my brain goes to.
I mean, you guys have all covered it really well. The easiest way I look at it is really AI, as we use it today, is like an intern doing a report for their manager, or an employee doing a report for their managers. That's your basic level. So they're doing all the research and they give you all this wonderful little report, which you can read and summarize and understand what all that data was. Whereas when you have Agentic, it's actually acting on that data. So you want it to book a flight for you, an AI. So I need to go to Miami next week. Okay, book the flight for me. And instead of someone doing it, it's an action that's happening on your behalf rather than just receiving a report back. When we talk about decentralized, as they said, it's taking the data from just that central little point or the compute from that central little point where there's power and control and just spreading it out so that nobody really can just flick a switch and cut you off from everything that's happening there. And that's, I mean, probably one of the biggest fights that's happening today, especially with a lot of the people in the blockchain world. They get a little bit scared when it comes down to highly centralized AI. I'm just going to give a quick story. Yesterday I was with one of the head infrastructure engineers of formerly of OpenAI, and he was saying the stuff that goes on there, the way that they use data is just not right. In fact, right now he's working on a couple of interesting projects in decentralized AI to help combat that.
Yeah, thanks actually for bringing up that point about that story. Because my next question really was, where does blockchain fit in? Why can't we just connect agents to APIs and let them run on Web 2? Where do you think Web 3 really comes in here? You want to?
Yeah, sure. It's extremely interesting, and I think there's like a dozen different ways of how DLT or blockchain fits into AI or agents, but largely I think about the front end and the back end. So if you look at the back end, as you mentioned, it's decentralized infrastructure, so it's inferencing, compute, energy, and data, which in my mind are the four core inputs. There's an ability to orchestrate them in a decentralized way. So there's no central point of control. There's no central point of failure, which is also very important. If more and more economic activity is underpinned by AI, it's critical that we avoid single point of failures in the same way that we have seen CrowdStrike outages or whatever power grid failures in emerging markets. So single point of failure prevention, I think, is a large component, and then obviously participation economy in the back end. Looking at the front end, more on agents, it's around introducing, that's what's happening today, tokens within agents. So you have an agent which performs economic activity by introducing tokens which are blockchain based. There's revenue sharing or governance participation there. Ultimately, where I believe the space is going, but from a technological perspective, we're not there yet, is that blockchain will be used for verification. So what has happened in the past, what have agents done in the past, on activity that, like the verification of agent activity in the past, and the specification of agent activity in the future. Through smart contract-based logic, you can limit some of the potential power or empowerment these agents have when they utilize your assets, they control your data. So it's really like code-based limitations. These are use cases that are currently being worked on. I cannot say that we're there yet from a tech perspective, but it's moving quite quickly. So I think that's also a very big component.
Just to kind of say that the future of AI agents and the blockchain from our perspective is more on the regulation point of view and the trust. Why? Because, yeah, all this technology that everybody can describe will happen at some point, but the more important from my perspective is maybe this fact that we are transparent and trustworthy. Today, as you said, we don't know what they're doing, whatever we are, writing on internet, whatever we're clicking, we're engaging, we're posting, we have no clue in the back end what's going on. So today we are kind of aware, but imagine just our kids, right? They are still young. I do have young kids and they kind of keep reading, playing and so on. So they are not aware as much as I am. So the next 25, 50 years means that they need to see what's going on with their data, the way that it is kind of translated, the way that it's kind of like worked on in terms of models, so they know where they need to stop things. Today we don't know. And we have seen a lot of cases across the world where like data has been manipulated on social media. Election has been won and kind of through this. Economy failed through this. So do we want to do that? No. So that's from my perspective. I'm not a technology person, but what I fight for is this transparency and this trust within the brand versus the end users.
Not much to add, I guess. There's
Bob, come on.
so an open source framework sits on probably the more kind of, let's say, speculative or entertaining side of what's possible in AI and crypto. I think it's not bad. It's more entertainment focused. I think Jasper's absolutely right. Verification is probably where things go. Agent to agent communication, coordination on chain probably isn't that far away. If you look at robotics and kind of autonomous vehicles, etc. Things I've seen, things being built right now in AI16Z, ELIZA Labs. There are marketing platforms being built. You can augment an intern that can do pretty good marketing activity for you quite easily. There's just referencing some things. There's a PvP gaming kind of prediction market, which uses an agent to give you odds for people to bet on an esports game live, for example. That interaction with crypto is only if you actually execute something to go to that blockchain. So the agent itself is not really on chain, it's interacting with the blockchain. That's kind of where we're at, I think, across the current state of things. As you say, I think infrastructure needs to see a lot more around if you're trusting an agent to do something for you on chain, how do you know it's doing the right thing? How do you verify its output? How do you give it $1,000 or £1,000 and make sure that you're confident with what it's going to do with it? So,
what they all said, and it is 100% true. We need to be getting to a space where we feel safe with these AI agents doing things. I mean, put your hands up very quickly. How many of you use AI almost on a daily basis today? Okay. How many of you ask the question of what's being tracked? based on what you put in there. Okay. So many of us, I'm sure, use like internet, like incognito browser for doing something things that you don't want to be tracked. Like, I mean, right now we don't have that with AI. So if you put something and ask a question in there, there is a record that leads back to you. And things like decentralized AI will allow us at least to maybe ask questions which we don't want people to have. I don't know, maybe someone had some funny growth on a part of their body and they didn't want everybody to know. OpenAI now knows about it. And this is where decentralization can come in and can help create the anonymity and allow you to ask the questions you need to ask or carry out actions where you need to ask. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of people are fighting for this sort of thing today.
Cool. No, that makes a lot of sense. And in terms of adoption, so I think, Ben, you predicted that within 12 months there will be more agentic interactions than human interactions on chain. Where do you think are we on that? Do you think it's realistic we'll hit it? And if yes, why? If not, why not?
I mean, did you see Google's agent framework that was released? So I thought that was quite interesting. Agents, if an agent is a UX layer for people interacting with blockchains, and the agents are actually going away and performing activities for you on chain, I think that is maybe what we see in the next 6 to 12 months start to become a bit more, let's say, mainstream for consumers at least. I think there will be agent systems that managing infrastructure, maybe managing robotics, perhaps performing trading activity. Last week, there's a team building covalence for DeFi, within DeFi for agents. So they could lend into their agents something from a lending pool autonomously. That's an on-chain contract that can happen in seconds, be executed, do a flashlight and send it back to the agent. So that's being built right now. 3x DeFi engineers, very early stage, etc. So yeah, I mean, humans haven't really used blockchains that much as well. So that's the other side. Very fair point. I think agents can navigate things a lot easier than humans can. I see the acceleration from AIs. It's kind of makes sense to me. Yeah, 12 months, but yeah, not in the future.
That makes a lot of sense. And then to the rest of the panel, in terms of adoption, have you seen any, for example, interesting cool DeFi use cases that you think might be a game changer? Like what's something you're seeing in terms of adoption trends for agentic AI?
Yeah, sure. And we saw it during the poll as well. Like a lot of people are interested in leveraging AI to manage financials, whatever squeeze more yield out of their assets, whatever really nets them more dollars at the bottom line at the end of the day. So even the bold statement of like within the next 12 months we might see more agents on chain. Depending on the direction of the market, obviously, I think it's not that far-fetched. I think it's very realistic. Like finance is, in my mind, the first use case which will see more mainstream adoption. It's very compelling and it's very intuitive for users to see the additional value of like using an agent as an intermediary if more dollars are added to the bank account at the end of the month. I think it's the most intuitive use case. It lends itself extremely well because the data is widely available. You don't even need oracles. There's publicly available data on basically any exchange which can pull through APIs into the agent. So it's also highly quantifiable, which the list goes on and on. I think finance is definitely the use case where we'll see most stuff. Around the ultimate adoption, I'm yet to see the larger incumbent DeFi players truly adopt agents within whatever framework or offering they're using. In my mind, maybe fancy that based on this, but it sits a little bit within isolation where a lot of interesting like strategies like yield optimization strategies are being developed, but we're not seeing them going full mainstream yet. There are some concerns around like smart contract risk, obviously, like you don't want this to have massive EVL and then all of a sudden break. So I think there's a little bit of like testing in a vacuum, and then just like anything in the blockchain space, we will go from 0 to 1 in a couple of months, I think, very quickly.
I'll probably say I like your bold statement, but I don't believe in it yet. And I'll probably say it will take us more than 2 years, 3 years maybe. From the gaming perspective that I come from, I think that one of the biggest challenges that we have is the lack of data, because obviously, agent needs to have a lot of data to understand the context and take the decision and make all these process steps. But the point is that on the Web3 side of it, we do not have enough, at least in the wide range that we need. So from a gaming perspective, I would love to have AI agent playing on my behalf when I'm sleeping, because at least I can gain more reward, I can do more things. The other part that I love also to see an AI agents, playing in the game field is the interoperability of my digital asset. So obviously, if you are a gamer on Fortnite or any other games, I would love to see the opportunity to lend this asset and get money out of it. Because for me, this is kind of the economy that I'm looking for, right? I spend a lot of time gaming, I spend a lot of time buying digital skins and so on. And my kids the same. So at the end, when we move from the different games, I have 10,000 or 20,000 or 5,000 Ks somewhere like in this vault, and I can't sell them. So I would love to see this agent doing that, which is not available yet. So that's my perspective on the adoption.
On one side, yes, I disagree a little bit. I only on the thing of I really wouldn't like to see AI agents play games. I think that will actually entirely break the whole gaming ecosystem if you're playing against AIs. But on a side note, but then in gaming, I'm actually seeing it happen. So one of the companies I advise, and this is in casino games, right? So casino games are very simple, simplistic systems. But it was 18 months ago, they started with some basic AI agents, bringing them into their systems. And they brought in a number of AI agents. There were 60 employees when they started. By the end of 12 months, they reduced their employment down to 18 people. And they had AI agents doing coding, doing customer service, doing a whole bunch of different things. And this is not it's not Web3, so again, it's the gambling industry. But over there, they actually had a very effective content, because in the gaming, literally all your costs are manpower. They literally reduced their costs by over 60% when it came down to it. And they ended up selling their company to like the Finnish government or something like this, who ended up putting a whole bunch of people in. But they saw that how powerful AI agents can be. Now, we're talking about 2024. Can you imagine what it's going to be like by 2025, 27, 29? We're probably going to see massive reductions in manpower just down to these basic tasks which are carried out every day.
Thanks, which brings us actually to another point, which is risks and like what could go wrong. And obviously, the impact on the workforce is one thing. Something I'm also worried about are things like, let's say you have AI agents that can outperform others in the markets. How do you make sure that not a small group of players, reap all the financial returns there, basically, which is not that different from what we have anyway, but even worse than it is. But generally, like, what are some risks you see and what are some mitigations on them? Maybe, shall we start? We can change it around a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, I think Yasmina said the right thing before. Like, regulation is going to have to come into play because there is a lot of risk. And let's just say there's everybody gives us an amazing AI agent, which starts creating starts doing some DeFi trading for all of us. Now, if we're all trading on the same side, what happens? Nothing really happens at that point, right? And so it'll trade a thing. But it could also, if manipulated, it could also be in a space where it creates us some massive gains. So all of us start putting in some money, and then there's someone on the other side who shorts the hell out of it, and then we all lose a lot of money. So the regulatory area needs to come into strength. It needs to come into strength, and it needs to be very clear, like when an AI agent is there, who has it, where's the information? Is the information clearly available to everybody on what's happening here? Because otherwise, it could create can you imagine all of us losing all our Bitcoin overnight? That'd be crazy.
I'm going to be a little bit out of the box here. I think there's a risk that people could lose creativity in general. I'm starting to notice people, responses may be ChatGPT formatted. And it's okay sometimes to be authentic, right? It's been it's not unfortunate, but the first people that have been disrupted have been creatives, perhaps. Maybe not the first, but it's been art, music creation, so on and so forth. And perhaps that is a risk that AI just becomes the creative layer of interaction, which is quite sad.
I think from me the hurdles I would see, beyond the regulation, is also the cybersecurity, because that AI agent can be malicious. So that means that he can go anywhere or he can access to anything, and then he can play around. So, welcome to hell.
Yeah, maybe on back of two things. Just maybe first on the creativity element. So research was a pretty big component. It's something I spent day in, day out just researching the space, investment opportunities, technological barriers, limitations, all that stuff. What I notice is, and I use it a lot, like I use every model, I use everything out there to get the best possible outputs. But one example is there's a massive confirmation bias in everything you ask it. So I think people will need to get more familiar with the idea that everything that gets spat out of LLMs is to some extent the confirmation bias of whatever you're asking, especially if it's not quantifiable, subjective information. And that then gets us into the realm where, obviously people are less incentivized to be creative because it doesn't matter as much, and we're going to revert to an opinion where that is ultimately what LLMs are, right? It's probabilistic outcome of what is the next best word, and the risk is if everything in AI, everything in society gets pushed through AI, we will just mean revert into something which is extremely bland and quite boring. So don't use it for everything. And then maybe secondly, on the security side, security, privacy, all these things are not a product, and some of us in the space are shouting extremely loudly about the necessity for decentralization of infrastructure, decentralization of the front end. The reality is, if you look at history, humanity has only adopted these things when there's a necessity for it. So the risk is with AI, where we just continuously push forward because it's so much productivity, and we run into this. I don't know how it might look like, but whatever, a couple of years down the road, there is a little bit of a blow up to some extent, and I think that all of a sudden it will be very obvious to everyone that there's a necessity for this. And I feel like that's a little bit of the balance we're striking here, and we're against a very powerful technology, which obviously everyone likes to use. But that's a little bit of the risk. I'm not sitting here doomsday, whatever. But there's something.
For sure. Thank you. Last question before we open the floor to questions. But I would like to hear some recommendations for our audience. What's a simple step how people can start using AI agents, either for themselves or for their businesses? What's a good way to start here, Wesley? If you help us.
Well, one transformation we're doing for an accountancy firm. It's a very small firm based in my country. And what we're doing for them is actually creating some AI agents, which basically their clients can directly upload the receipts of their small businesses. From there, it gets fed into either Xero or QuickBooks. And literally, this guy's accountancy work is chopped down from, I think it was 50, he had 50 clients per accountant in his firm. 50 clients per accountant. Now he's doing 500 clients per accountant because the clients are just doing a little bit of the work themselves, taking the photos and uploading it into the AI agent that they have. That's then distributing into QuickBooks. Everything else is done for him. And this is just very simplistic integration. He was looking at hiring another 3 or 4 employees. He decided to hire 1 more, and that literally has, I think he's expecting to quadruple his revenue this year, something like that. Well,
yeah, I mean, you can play with Eliza OS very easily. There's tutorials that get you started in 15 minutes. You can create a character that you can speak to. You have to have some basic ability to set up an IDE and develop an environment. But if you can kind of navigate that, you can kind of build your own agent and talk to it and start to play with the character and what it's how it's behaving, how it's responding to it, let's say. Which it's a bit of an insight to what it is and how, I guess, how it started to work.
I would probably advise one of the things is do your own research before you give them access to the agents to your wallet, right? Because obviously you want to make sure that you're giving access to a little banker or your little advisor slowly and auditing them. Do check on them, check what they've been doing the history. So that's kind of like give you a bit of information before jumping. And once you do it, if you're really ready to give them access, then give them like, a small amount to start with, just at least to kind of see how that works, rather than just go full steam. So that would be my only advice so far.
Maybe from you, like maybe first on the business side, so anyone who's looking to leverage this into their company, I think that the easiest one is to hire a little bit slower. Just there's always pain points you're trying to fit it with a new hire. Just slow down a little bit and trying to figure out if there's a way to either work around it by implementing some kind of agent. At the moment, from what I see, it is very unlikely because the workforce in every company, especially if it's a later stage company, is quite ossified. It's like it's very structured. It has been the way for the past decade. Like this individual does X, this individual does Y, and the way agents operate, I don't think it's a like for like replica of human capital. So I think a lot of people are talking about them replacing the workforce. I think it's going to be something more organic. Like I think we will see more agent native companies like being built quite quickly with multi-agent frameworks. But replacing like an individual worker in a company, I think with an agent is extremely difficult at the moment. It's quite difficult at the moment. For personal use, there is some kind of technical background required to deploy it safely. For anyone looking to like dabble into the space, I would look at like vibe coding, vibe marketing, look it up on Twitter, look it up on Google, and you have some pretty cool tutorials. And if you have nothing to do on a Sunday afternoon, I think you might spin up an agent in an hour.
Thanks so much. Yeah, let's open the floor to some questions from the audience. We'll have to pass around. Yeah, I'll keep that mic. Yeah, where do we start? Okay. We'll work our way to the front.
Just needed to get me.
Yes. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm working in financial planning, so working with people just kind of helping kind of pensions, ISAs, working with tax purposes, just things like this. It's a very outdated trading industry, especially in general. The providers and capital we use are pretty slow, just not very good. How can what you guys are doing, or just what it kind of AI market in general, simply be integrated or simplify a lot of our roles? I think you probably have something to say on that. Kind of what you just mentioned with accountancy.
I actually know of a company that's doing that based out of Bangalore, India. I was with them literally 2 days ago. It's called My Financial Planner, and what they're utilizing is they're utilizing a number of structured data sets where they've got actual good financial, like real licensed financial planners to give data in various different situations. You put in your individualized data, and it sort of gives you a structure and a financial plan for you. The whole concept of this in India was like people don't have access to financial planners, right? So you can take the little you have and it can structure you in a way. But these are just using basic LLMs right now. Basic LLMs using structured data, training those up, and then it gives you a way out. They haven't got to the agentic side yet, but the agentic side would then just action that on your behalf.
So by using this kind of stuff, we would be able to essentially it would give us something to review before then going forward with the client. Whereas when that agentic side kind of develops, then we'll be able to get to a point where we can say, actually, this is just a reduced account. Yeah, just we still have to kind of fact check it, but do even less work.
Exactly.
What would, say if I was actually looking to, say if I'm going to my boss tomorrow and saying, let's do this, what would be some actions that I can do this? Sorry, I was not.
I mean, that is literally doing your homework. I would just check out myfinancialplanner.ai. It'll give you some info. We'll find it there.
Yeah.
I'm shocked by the company was actually fired developers and replace them with AI in 2024 already. Okay, so this is a gaming company. LLMs are great in building games. So that was simple. Have you seen another companies doing it? Actually, firing developers because AI is doing so much work that they don't need them.
What I know, so I know of about 3 other projects, which instead of hiring developers, they utilize the CTO and one junior person to do something that they expected to do with 10 people. So they were using a mixture of Windsurf as well as I think Lovable were the 2 that they were using. And between those 2, they were managing to build out everything they needed to do. One was like a university free time, but this free hour, and that was completely. So basically, they had a third-party service. They rebuilt everything in their previous system, and they rebuilt it literally with just 2 developers. Something that last time had taken the previous company about 9 to 12 months. They did everything in about 2.5 months. Obviously, there was certain logic bases with that were already there, but they recoded everything and used it, and they didn't get the 10 developers they were expecting.
Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, first of all, thank you so much. That was a really insightful discussion. I'm Anisha. I'm building a developer tool that creates very realistic testnets on demand for blockchain developers. The question to you guys is, given the crazy adoption of AI frameworks and AI agents, is there something that you think AI agents could already be doing very well, but like devs or some people haven't caught on to it yet or haven't caught on enough? Like, what do you think we could do right now with the technology we have today?
Good question. That sounds like an interesting idea, though. Agent-based testnets. Okay, so like, as an ethos, being a framework, an AI framework operating in crypto, we are trying to automate as much as possible, right? We have to use our own framework and dog food and kind of make sure that we're streamlining our own ways and kind of doing what we say we should do. So I mean, the developer relations is a very clear area that can be automated. All of our documentation is basically markdown files. Every time that we update the framework, which is happening quite a lot at the moment as we're going from V1 to V2, it's kind of automatically updating parts of the docs, not all of it, but we're looking at how can we kind of take code changes and then automating what is being communicated to developers. What else is there? We've also built a kind of, so just to the gaming question as well before. So one of the early contributors was building 3D worlds. That was what he was doing before. And he's built an AI 3D animated version of Shark Tank. So we have agents, teams coming through, and we're putting them through this kind of Shark Tank, it's called, process to whether we support them with crowdfunding or not. And it's very, it's not simple. It's not simple at all. Like, it's very delicate when we're dealing with real builders who need to have accurate responses and fair kind of judgment. But each of the judges each have their own character files, and each have been tuned to respond to certain things in certain ways. I mean, there's an endless amount of things that you could do, I think, to your question. And yeah, we're exploring it as an ongoing basis. But I think the thing that building an agent is not easy, right? Building an agent that's okay is, or just average, is easy. Building an agent that's really good on top of this game is actually quite difficult. So like, when you look at the different use cases that agents are emerging in, like, it's actually, it's quite hard to build a good agent. So yeah, I think we're limited in what we can do, let's say. But yeah.
I'll just add something there, and this is from just the observation across like all frameworks. Obviously, like Headlights is a pretty big part of it. I feel like there's an oscillation between agents that digest information and interact with people, that like whatever X datagram, and then the push towards like delegating meaningful economic activity, and people always reach some kind of barrier. So what I'm referring to is like delegating meaningful economic activity is using them, for example, for DeFi DeFi, yield farming, complex financial decision making. We're constantly oscillating between those two. If I would say an interesting use case around information, the digestion of information, which in my mind is the easier one because you're not enabling agents to do anything other than providing information, is around investor relations and information distribution across different DAOs. So for anyone working in public companies, investor relations is hugely important to guide equity shareholders on like what's actually happening. What we have in crypto is we have all these companies that become liquid very, very early, and also there's a lot of governance, there's a lot of like DAO activity. It becomes extremely difficult to digest all that information. So layering that with either on the DAO side, an agent which digests that information, and to anyone who's a token holder, you just plug in your wallet, they see whether or not you're a token holder, to provide you the necessary information, whatever you need to do in terms of activity. Or on the individual sides, again, where just your entire portfolio gets aggregated and distilled into like, okay, what has actually happened? What decisions have been made? So I think, IR and governance of DAOs is something which is unexplored. I think it was very unfavorable. Like it was very in vogue last cycle. Then there was a little bit of a downfall. People overestimated how much governance we could do. But I feel like that's an area where agents could definitely like pick up activity, and I think it's a very big opportunity. So.
We are doing a lot of that at the moment as well. Yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna have to share.
All of so the agents live in Discord. They're monitoring all the chats, they're monitoring the contributions in GitHub, they're monitoring a lot of stuff that just is information flow, and then there's reports being created every weekend, kind of regular intervals. It's a big challenge.
Okay, I can see we have like 2 more questions. Okay.
Just to find where you see the incorporation of AI agents in 2025 and 2026 beyond.
Did you guys get that?
Okay, so can you just repeat? Sorry, I didn't get it. I was talking.
So in this presentation, where do you see the incorporation of AI agents in 2025 and 2026? Where do you see the use cases now?
Okay, so are we talking about the agent AI in Web3 or Web2? Okay, so I would probably say in DeFi, not in gaming, unfortunately, because again, I come from gaming and I would love to see them making a dent there and an impact. Unless users can do something quickly, I would love to. But from my perspective, and coming from the Web2, I would say that we're a long way, because just like a quick check on your daily usage, everybody has to kind of raise their hand when we use the AI, but we're using very generative AI. It's not as intelligent with a lot of layers, a lot of components. You cannot ask any complex actions from Gemini or ChatGPT, right? You just ask a question and it replies. So if the Web2 hasn't resolved this problem yet, how do you want us as Web3 to kind of go beyond expectation? So that's kind of maybe my answer.
One area I can see it happening very fast is community management within either Telegram or various different community sites, where not only does it do the community management, but it also does community rewarding. So if it does see value in someone who's providing to the system, they're responding to other community members, you can see them actually giving people tokens and giving activity to airdrop tokens to various different people. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of sort of like the customer service and taking care of the community rather than just being done by a random person and hoping they're doing it. You can do a lot of sentiment analysis and actual tracking of what the individuals are doing in that community, and then again, attach the smart contracts and give out stuff on that basis.
Okay, we've got James here, one more back, and then that's it.
I was just trying to gather my thoughts for one of these questions. So, how can users be confident that the agent is as sincere as possible? So I took a minute just to use that word sincere. So it's both in the inputs that the agent obtains and how it's getting those and how verifiable that source is, but also the computation. I think maybe someone touched on verifiable compute before. So maybe just around that, like how does the user feel confident
that it's not influenced. Of things like either negatively or even advertising as chatted before.
So yeah, I mean, the infrastructure side of on-chain agents has a lot to progress still. I think it's the point of 20. What does 26 look like? More independently acting agents that are learning, self-learning, and self-acting. To the question, we have to get that right first before that sort of happens, right? Otherwise, it's quite a scary world. At the moment, the input of LLM, yes, you have to understand what LLM is it calling. If someone switches that, what's the bias? Is there any bias there? Asking questions, which are kind of quite cliche at this point. I think the output of the algorithm, the algorithm of the agent should live in a T. It's kind of best practice at the moment. So it can't be changed. It's immutable. You can see at any point what that algorithm is and therefore what its output is. I think it's quite a big question.
Yeah, if you just what's the T probably out of it.
Sorry, it's a trusted execution environment, which is you can probably explain this better than I can. It's a kind of a wrapper for a piece of code that lives in a smart contract or anywhere really. And from that, that within so the first wave of agents from Eliza Labs was not from Atlas, but from our community were trading and insight agents, and there was a huge question on how do you know what the trading advice, whether trading advice is good or bad, and how do you know what data it's consuming, how do you know what advice it's giving, and that those two things were the kind of best practice that we landed on. There's a lot more to come, I think, on that side. Thank you.
Okay. Last question.
My name is Andy. Let me give you this question. Some question for the panel. So I remember in 2008, 2009, there was this laws talking about flash boys using AI to high frequency trading and stuff like that. And I was wondering, what's the panel's opinion? Are we replicating what happened in 2008, 2009, and now it's just AI agents that are trading between each other, or do you see a way where you can kind of use those AI agents for good so that they will not give the industry this bad rap?
Have you ever launched a meme coin?
I should launch.
Yeah, no. If you've launched a meme coin, you're seeing how they're acting at the moment. There's a lot of sniping agents out there, and again, they're acting for an individual's profits. Again, this takes regulation to know if people are doing stuff for good or for bad. At least in the traditional markets, there is some form of regulation that's out there. Even though again, there's probably a lot that goes under the table. We hope it will be used for good, but there's greed in this world, and we live in a world of reality. And I just want to jump back to your question about sincerity. Sincerity is going to be impossible to know. Any publication you read today is biased, and it's biased. If you read any article in Forbes, the likelihood is that's paid for in some way, shape, or form, and it's paid as a marketing tool. So in a utopian state, I would hope every article we read is actual truth. The fact of the matter is, I think every piece of AI we're going to see is going to have some bias behind it, depending on who's the publisher, of what's happening there, and how they're funding this thing. But again, maybe we might see a better future.
Maybe on the question around whether wait or not and that flash boys. So I used to be a stockbroker, I used to be a sales trader. I know the trading floor inside out. My view is that it is so efficient to the point where my view on a lot of tech innovation is that the long tail, the most inefficient stuff gets gobbled up first, and then we move into the very, very efficient space. My view is that it will take a while until that entire realm, if you're talking about public equities, fixed income, the large institutional side of finance, that's going to take a while because obviously you have regulation. A lot of these guys still can't touch DeFi because of KYC issues. That is one side, but also it's so efficient that the opportunity costs they don't self-destruct. I was in a bank pitching blockchain for 2-3 years, very, very avidly. A lot of people were listening, and the appetite to adopt and self-destruct is very low until there's a point of necessity. So
my view is like on the agent side, we'll see consumer finance, we'll see agent integration within wallets that will become the new neobanks. There's going to be a lot of consumer finance, and ultimately, as the expectation from individuals changes around financial outcomes, that's when I think institutions will be almost forced to change. They are forced to go on chain. They are forced to look at agents, but that is a very, very, very slow grind. So I think we will see loads and loads of changes outside of finance before I think the financial realm will be meaningfully touched.
I will just add on to what Jasper said, is that the change doesn't happen from the inside. It always happens somewhere else, and then there is a wave or tsunami that's taking it. And from my perspective, I think that the emerging market will be surprising us all, because they are the ones who've been holding crypto since the beginning. They are the biggest holders worldwide. Like Africa is the biggest, they have the biggest number. So, and they know that they move because of necessity, not because of, oh, it's nice to have it. So I think that from that side, they will be the ones that kind of in the next 5 years surprisingly come with something that we haven't done yet. And they will be pushing the regulation because they're already kind of doing so many things that we're not even, talking about in European countries or in US, where Asia, Africa, and Latin America are ahead of some games. And we're like, okay, so we need to discuss, guys, we need to put it in a framework in order to protect the brands, projects, and users.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks so much.
So just before we let everyone go, a quick request. If you could please complete our short feedback survey, we would really appreciate it. Everyone who completes it? Oh my goodness, this is amazing. So everyone who completes the survey and you show it to one of us, you get a tote bag, CryptoMondays branded tote bag. I mean, if you don't complete it now, I don't know what Thanks so much, everyone.
Guys, we're here until 9:30. There's food and drinks. Please help yourself. Thank you.